moment, it's been almost 2 decades now since GM last had to put it in a truck specifically. SUV, I'll probably make that in a different video, because I mean, yeah, basically the same thing, whatever, right? I'm talking about just a pure body truck. And I guess what I think about them, right? Like for GM, I think the last production year for a performance-esque truck was, especially for the half tons, for sure. For the Silverado, they made a Silverado SS all the way to 2007. Right, that was the last time they did that. And between all the cars that I'm gonna list, that's that will be probably the lowest on the power scale, right? It'll be the lowest on power and torque, but reliability could be a big one, right? Just because the SS versions never really received any sort of AFM. That's right. They just literally just threw in a LQ9, which is a 6-liter iron block, and it just got, besides that, AFM was deleted, and then I think it just pretty much just got more sportier suspension, right? And the power and torque of that Silverado was 345 on power and 380 foot-pounds of torque. That 380 you'd probably see around 4,000 RPM. At least on paper. To the wheels, probably way less, right? And it was powered normally, right? Some people, I'm sure, have swapped this. If you might buy own, some maybe have already swapped it, but in general, it is normally powered by a 4L65. And that's just literally just a slightly stronger 4L60. I'm not gonna say that's the best transmission for that truck, right? That is a interesting choice. Like, normally you'd think on the truck at that point they would just go all out and just throw a 4L80 at it at that time. But hey, this is what they decided to do. So for being a sport truck, they needed to still maintain some sort of lightweightness, even though that truck wasn't light. It's a truck, obviously. But for that, I think reliability-wise, definitely skyrockets, right? Between the fact that that old LS does not have AFM. I'm like, that was a big issue even to this day with AFM trucks. Just lifters collapsing. I'm like, damn. But that thing was stout. Transmission, obviously, it has its own limits on what it can do, right? Whether you do power upgrades or whether you drive it for long periods. The big thing is that it doesn't handle power very well. Most 4L60s and 65s don't, especially high amounts of power above their rating. And they might be able to handle like simple things, like maybe like if you wanted to throw headers at, oh yeah, it could do that, right? Now if you wanted to throw a cam or I think that to a certain point it cannot do it, right? I think headers would probably be about your limit, or like maybe a really mild cam, but that's it, right? I'm like, they don't do much, they don't do power very well. That's just the way they work. Now if you don't really care about that, or like if you do and all you want to do is just only headers and that's it, the only thing I could really recommend for the 4L65 is obviously get a transmission cooler for that truck. That'll help that truck out a lot. And obviously if you throw a servo at it, okay, yeah, that for sure will help it too. But that's pretty much it for that truck. There isn't much craziness. It's like I said, it's probably especially for the standards of today, it's probably the weakest of the bunch. Like the next car I'm about to bring up right now, which was made around the same time, is from Ram. Alright, Ram. The SRT10 Rams. So if you've never heard about it, now you have. It's a Viper powered Ram. Slightly detuned, but it's still got that massive 8.3 liter V10 that they use on those Vipers. So, you know, there it is. That's one thing though. So those those Rams were detuned or tuned, whatever you want to call it, to make 500 horsepower. Right? And it came in two versions. So if you had a single cab, you had the T56 manuals, strict. If you had the quad cabs, you had a 48RE, which was one of the diesel transmissions at that time, or one of the heavy duty transmissions. And strong, sure. Obviously, that 48RE had its own issues too, like most transmissions do. Like there's a lot of automatic transmissions that they just aren't perfect, right? They have their own concerns, especially when pushed to the absolute brink of extinction. I'm like, you guys have got to relax on these transmissions. But you know, not everyone knows about it, and they kind of just paid a price because of it. So Ram. So SRT10 Ram. So power was pretty much the same on both, right? 500 was that point. The big one was just the fact that, you know, obviously quad cab, single cab. The quad cabs obviously much heavier and used a 4-speed automatic instead of a 6-speed manual. Right. Okay. The other difference is obviously in terms of gas tank size. Big difference, right? The single cabs were usually around 26 gallons and the quad cabs would hit around 34. So, but in terms of, yeah, I would say even if you want that truck and if you start complaining about gas, you should have never bought that truck in the first place. That thing is not very good on gas, right? Even at its best, right? If you're like constantly on the highway or whatever, and you're just not even gunning it, you're just driving like cruising type thing all the time, right? There was one I read online, and they tried it with the quad cab, and the best that they could pull off was 11 miles a gallon. I'm like, damn, that's doing nothing, right? And a lot of people don't drive like that, especially when you have that truck. You know, a lot of guys just they just get right on it. So yeah, it's not the best when it comes to that whole portion, obviously, if you care about that. But in terms of rawness, yes, that will give you everything that you could think of. It's probably the cheapest way into having a Dodge Viper, to be honest. Right, most of those trucks are not very expensive comparatively to a Viper. Like some of the lowest ones I've seen are going for around $30,000, and you look at Vipers hanging around the $80,000 to $200,000 range, maybe at the lowest 40, but that's for like the super old Vipers that just will kill you. So, but for Rams, that's usually where they hung around. It was pretty good, right? Pretty good for the time. I like the Rams. I like those, at least SRT10 Rams. I like just V10, right? The pure Viper V10. I'm like, that is crazy work. I think the last one I'm going to talk about, technically two, but you know, you can pick the version that you like. You have one of two Silverados. Like those are more street trucks. And then you've got F-150 Raptors, which look more like Baja trucks, or have Baja-like tendencies on how they were built. All right, big off-road tires, expensive suspension just to handle any of that. Now, in terms of power output, it's probably somewhere depending on which one you get. Whether you get the Raptor, which is the twin turbo EcoBoost engines, and I think output was increased on that one because obviously it's the Raptor. Output was increased about 400 horsepower. Big truck, so obviously it doesn't feel like a lot. I think the one thing that makes that thing feel like a lot, even for 400 horse, is the fact that they normally throw a 10-speed at that thing. So that 10-speed does make that truck feel like it just goes, and it does. I've driven a couple of those. They get up and go whenever that 10R80 works. If you get a Raptor R, you get the 700 horsepower F-150, which is on, again, it's just same thing, still has the big off-road tires, all that Baja, basically like a near street legal Baja truck at that point. It has the iterations for it. It just 700 horses, right? It's a 5.2 supercharged V8, probably one of the most badass trucks like at the moment, I think, right? It's cool. I like seeing performance trucks. I just do. They just kind of seem fun, right? That's why I wish GM still made them, right? Like especially for the Silverados, or like if they don't want to do it on the Silverados, at least throw it on GMC. GMC, that's like all they make. They just make big vehicles. Literally, GMC is just constant SUV truck over and over again. I'm like, these are just, there's not a single sedan or coupe or whatever. There's not a single one in sight at GMC. So I'm like, if you don't want to do it for the Chevys, I would say give it to GMCs. Right, give it to GMC. Give them the performance truck. I know, like what's some of the newer ones now, like AT4, but I'm like, you're gonna tell me the AT4 is gonna keep up with the current standards of like for modern day? Obviously, you have the Raptor R's, and then you have the TRX on Ram side. I'm like, where is GM's? Like, guys, come on. I know we have an Escalade V. Yes, truck is what I want. Truck. I want to see it. Truck. So I think, like, I'm not the biggest like Dodge fanboy or Ford. I'm like, but at least they try to make some cool shit. Now, excuse my language on that one. But they at least tried. Now, I'm not gonna say they're the greatest vehicles in the world. They're not, right? They have their own flaws. That's what comes with all these twin turbo or supercharged engines. If you expect that thing to be ultra reliable, like a little 2.0 4-cylinder, no, bro. I'm like, okay, that little thing, that like cost, there's gonna be some trade-offs in terms of the price to maintain those things, right? That's just the way it goes. But I would still love GM to try at least a Silverado SS or some sort of Sierra SS variant, right? I don't know if they would call it an SS on GMC side. Like for Chevy, we have the SS. For Cadillac, we have V's, right? You have the V platform. So I'm like, I don't know what they would throw at GMC for a letter. Buick, I don't think they're ever gonna do that one again. I think they make some like most of the cars now are just very much economically friendly, right? That's probably the cheapest of the 4 brands from GM that you can actually buy a car from, because they don't make anything super big, and they use the same engines, same everything. Doesn't matter. Well then, okay, they have not opened the gates yet to my work. That's great. Let me see if this gate's over here, open over here. I'm gonna go take a look at it there, bud. Yes, it is. Hell yeah. Huh. But yeah, I think between the trucks, it's an interesting one for sure. I wish GM still made some sort of, you know, supercharged thing or whatever. I don't know. They don't, from what I've seen, at least based on the cars that they do performance things on, they don't seem to make very many what do you call it, performance V6s. That's not really a GM thing, it seems, right? So it seems to be more prominent on some sort of performance-esque car. It seems to be more prominent towards Fords, right? It literally comes to the point where they even threw it in a Ford GT. For GM, they had like what, two? You have a CT4 Blackwing current day, and then you have ATS-V. But that's it, right? There's not anything else. It's not like Ford, where Ford has all these Raptors over and over again, and then you have the same twin turbo V6 or a similar, or ST line or whatever, right? You have these 3-liter V6s, or you have, I don't know. It's an interesting subject for sure. It's an interesting subject. But for the standpoint of just, you know, them making any sort of performance truck, I don't think they will. Like, you'd really have to do something at GM to really do anything. So I think if you want to buy a performance truck from GM or ish, it's literally just stuck at the SUVs at the moment. But between those three trucks, I think that's probably some of the cooler ones I could think of at the moment. Obviously they have some other ones, but this video is mostly just specifically on half-ton trucks, right? Not the mid-size or whatever. I just want to talk about just the pretty much the big three. So whether it was made in the past or now, or obviously most people know about the TRX. I just wanted to mention just specifically obviously the SRT10 Ram, because there seems to be some people that don't even know it exists. A lot of people don't even know the quad cabs exist, if you did know that the single cab existed. So if you didn't then, now you do. But all right then, I'm gonna probably start heading out here in a minute. Gotta head to work, you know, because that's how life goes. But I will see you guys later. You all have a great day. I'm out.